because you want to act as if. So you want to establish all your company, all your businesses, your systems, invest in the programs that are going to help you, your CRMs, your all the different aspects ahead of time, so that then the clients will come and support it. So be ready to financially invest as well. And that whole 4-hour work week book, that doesn't happen right away. That takes a while.
Hi, I'm Michael from Modular Agency, a Taipei-based marketing agency for tech companies. I'm here today with Jean, project manager at Modular.
Hi, guys.
And today we've invited Andreka from Andreka Photography. She runs her own photography business, and she's been running this photography business for over 15 years. It's a 6-figure photography business with a very small team. And she's traveled all over the world with shooting weddings, and your work has been published in magazines, multiple magazines. And it sounds like you're living the dream. You're making money doing what you love.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it's pretty exciting to talk to you, and I'm really curious how you got started in photography, your background, what were you doing before then? Could you tell us your story?
Sure. So I always loved cameras. I always had a camera with me. I remember being a little girl and getting a hot pink little point and shoot, and I thought it was normal for everybody to have a camera. And then I just took pictures all through junior high, at high school, and through school. And I always collected and made the photo albums and printed them. And to be honest, when I got to be in high school, the yearbook staff was the people who could like wander the halls and do what they wanted to do. I thought I was a crappy writer. I thought no one's going to interview for the crappy photographer job. I'm going to interview for photography, and that way I'll be able to get a yearbook pass and walk the halls. So I really got into photography with a very not great reason to skip class. And then I ended up loving it, and I learned how to shoot on film, and I was in the darkroom. And then when I got to college, I studied history and English, and I started doing photography because it was a way for me to make money and put myself through school. Again, didn't think it was a real job, but just did it on the side. And right before I graduated, the head of the art department asked me if I wanted to do an art show. And I was like, I'm not an art major. I don't think I can. And he's like, check your credits. And I was 1 credit short of an art major, and I didn't even realize it. So I feel like photography has just followed me along the way. And I stopped shooting for many years. And then when I was in my late 20s, mid-20s, I missed it, and I got a digital camera for the first time. And at that point, the light bulb went off to, I got to do this. And I just kind of went for it. You know, I had a full-time job at the time, but I just started going back to my roots. And all the people who knew me when I was younger said, it's about time. We've been waiting 10 years for you to realize you should be a photographer. And all the people that knew me when I stopped shooting were like, you can't just be a photographer. You got to actually know what you're doing. Little did they know I had like a portfolio this thick underneath my bed of like prints and pictures I'd done. So it's just always like been there.
Yeah, that's amazing. And can you tell us what were you doing for your full-time job?
Sure. I actually moved to California, and I was working for a Hollywood director.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I answered an ad in the paper, and I was in my early 20s. And I thought, I'm going to be a school teacher, but in the meantime, I'll take this job as a director to a man named Ivan Reitman. He did Ghostbusters.
You worked with Ivan Reitman?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was just kind of a chance thing, and I loved it. And I went for the job for 6 months, ended up staying for 8 years.
What were you doing with Ivan Reitman?
I was his assistant. Like,
Wow.
I learned so much from him. I learned how to run a business, really. I learned how to manage staff. He treated me so well. He let me start my business. I remember once I started, I stayed with him for 3 years while I still had my business going. And he would come in, and I'd be sitting there at his desk with his computer, editing photos on his Lightroom. And he'd lean over and be like, what'd you do this weekend? How's the lighting? What did you do for this? And he'd ask me directorial things, or he'd give me advice on business. And I was really, really lucky.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I did that until it really got to the point that I was shooting too many weddings that I couldn't be there for him. And I realized one had to go. Yeah, it was hard. And then he actually ended up in the end afterwards photographed his daughter's wedding. I photographed his other daughter's family portraits. Like, I stayed in touch with them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
Now
Yeah.
his son is doing Ghostbusters.
Yeah, Jason's the best.
Jason Reitman.
Yeah. I was
Cool.
really lucky. It was a great family.
So it's very interesting because you are always into photography, but then you became a full-time photographer, I think as a freelancer at first, right?
No, I jumped out of the gate 100% running my business.
Oh, running your business straight from
Straight from
full-time
it.
job.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Well, I think the thing that made it so easy to do was that I had a job. Like I had a career that I was doing at the time. And when I graduated school, I did a couple things on film here and there, but not real career. And had no idea how to run a business. I had never taken a business course in my life. I'd had this full-time job and it felt safe because I knew, well, I can do this. I have a job. That said, don't take financial advice from me. I remember feeling like, okay, I got to do this. I got to be a photographer. And I walked into the camera store and I said, how much credit card debt, how much limit can I get on this credit card at this camera store? And can I buy the professional camera and 2 lenses and the stuff I need to do it? And I will never forget it. Sammy's camera in Santa Barbara, California, and Jason. And he goes, you need a 5D, a 70 to 200, a 24 to 70, and here's the accessories, and it's going to come out to be about 6,900 and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I said, well, how much can I get on a credit card? He goes, 7,000. And I went, let's do it. And at that point, it kind of lit the fire under me that I had to then try to make this business work.
Right, you have to pay back the debt.
I had to pay by the debt. I mean, again, it was safe that I had a full-time job with a full-time salary coming in, but it really made me work hard and take it seriously, So I think having that drive really helps establish where the business is going to happen and go.
So how did you get your first clients? Because I think at that point you were just an employee somewhere, and now you had to start promoting yourself as you're a photographer.
The best thing someone ever told me when I started my business was, and this was I focus in weddings, and this was a wedding DJ, was, your first year is the best year because you have nowhere to go but up. If you book one client, you're a success. And the goal isn't to go out of the gate. In fact, I think it's a bad move to go out of the gate with a full lineup, a full career going. You don't have the systems, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the experience in place to keep it going, to sustain it. So if you start with one client, the goal is to double every year. So the first client, find a friend, put it out there, see who needs it, talk to people, network, get to know the people, get to know the communities that you're working within. And here's something that I think is really important when it comes to networking. Be really, really authentic. Like there's a lot of the networking groups these days that it's like, here's my business card, what can you do for me?
Right.
And if you're talking to someone and in your gut, you're like, I don't actually like this person, don't work with them. Even if there's someone who's really big and fancy and can help you, it's not going to be good for you in the end. Like my best, closest friends right now are other photographers and are other people in the industry because we can work together, not so much competition. And so this DJ said to me, number 1, double every year. So my first year, I had 5 weddings, 5 clients. 2, maybe 1 or 2 of them were associates or people I knew. So that was it. That was a success. 5 weddings. Great. Next year, my goal is to double. And again, at this point, you have 5 weddings. That means you have 5 couples you can work off of, and you have all of their people that they know. So it's really good to build connection with your client so that they then refer you. So a lot of my business is based off referrals. But those 5, the next year, I got 11, right? And then the next year, I got 22. And then I started realizing, what do I want to really take in? And that was the year 3. So that was the point I ended up quitting my full-time job and realizing I have to keep going at this. So that's kind of how it all grows. Yeah.
So by year 3, you have replaced your full-time job salary as far with your revenue? or you were just kind of like had a lot of projects and you had to focus on your business?
I think I must have.
Yeah, that's
Like,
like kind
I'm
of like
gonna,
a logical decision.
yeah, like I think what happened was time wise. Like I just realized, I probably cut back on my expenses. And I was able to just keep going. And then you also just find little extra stuff. I would wait tables if I really needed to on the side. I'd take on little gigs if I needed to. It wasn't just weddings. It might be portrait sessions. It might also be assisting other photographers. Any little extra thing I could do, but making sure that I was no longer sitting at a 9 to 5 because I knew during that time it's replacement, right? So during that 9 to 5 time, I could actually make more and build my business more. So the jobs I took had to not take over the photography aspect.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting because for me, I also own an e-commerce clothing store, but I also work a full-time job here.
Yeah.
And I do kind of understand how you meant about having a full-time job salary. And that is the reason why you are allowed to take risks in growing your own business because you're not starting from zero. You still have some income coming in. And that's very important too.
Definitely. And it allows you to take more risks. And I think that's one of the biggest things when it comes to starting the business is it's not that easy. And I think so many people think it's just easy. They see the glorious life of running a business, right? And it's not all that glorious. You can never shut the door, lock it, turn off the computer, and not walk away from it.
Yeah, I can super relate to that. Like weekends, I'm thinking about what's going to happen next week. And,
Yeah.
But the thing that's really interesting is like we work with a lot of freelance photographers, and they're all kind of content being freelancers, and they have a lot of freedom, and they can travel, and they don't have that burden of payroll. What made you want to go straight into the business? Is it because were you now maybe there's no shame in this, but were you motivated by the revenue that would?
Oh, not one bit. I've never been a person to know about revenue, to be honest.
Okay.
If you ask me how much money I make, I have no idea to this day. I mean, I'm starting to understand. Honestly, it's been 15 plus years in my business, and I'd say I'm just now in the last 2-3 years looking at my numbers more and seeing what that looks like. It's always just been like, I guess I'm still doing this. Let's keep going. It's still working. It wasn't until year 10 that I went, oh, wow, I've had a business for 10 years. I guess that's something. Because when you're in the middle of it, you don't think about it. You're just going year by year. Yeah. I think what motivated me to go straight to the business is that's all I knew. Mm-hmm. Like to be a freelancer to me wasn't going to be worth leaving my full-time job for. Mm-hmm. It wasn't going to be an option. And I was at the time living in Santa Barbara, California, in a time when wedding photography was really changing. And it was at the point where photography was becoming more photojournalistic, more artistic, and people were really starting to run their businesses. So I was luckily surrounded by these ridiculously talented photographers who kind of took me under their wing and showed me. That's one thing that I think is so great when you're starting a business is to find mentors in the same industry that you can really trust and relate to. And for me, there were a couple photographers that I worked with in Santa Barbara that I really trusted them business ethically wise. I loved their morals. I loved where their heart was in their business. And if I ever had a question about how I was going to take care of a situation, I would go to them. And I'd say, what's your policy on this? Because I like how you've done it. I want to echo that. And that's where, like in my whole business, I've always been, if someone asks me a question, I'll tell them straight up. Anything I can tell them, what software programs I use, any of the stuff, which is why I'm really excited. I was telling you about doing an online course.
Right.
Because now I can do an online course and teach people the business aspect. So I love helping the industry grow and support itself. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're a natural business mind. And then photography is almost like the other thing you do. Not to discredit.
Yeah, no.
But,
I think so.
Yeah, but it's kind of the picture you're painting about how you started and how you grew.
Which is funny because I think it was, like I said earlier, photography just kind of came along and I didn't even know it was happening. I think the business aspect did too. And full disclosure, year 10 was probably one of the worst, hardest years I ever had. And I thought, well, it's been a good run. Let's just close up the books and I'm going to go back and work in a coffee shop for the rest of my life. Like I really was like, I felt like it had finished. And I think what happened was, but it's funny that you say that it must have always been there, because it did make me go straight to business. I didn't go from working for someone else. That wasn't even an option in my head. So at year 10, I was kind of like, all right, what am I going to do? Something has to give, something has to shift. And at that point, which would have been now 2016, 17, 5 years ago or so, I became an entrepreneur. I became a businesswoman, and a photographer. But the photography part is like, I always say, anyone can take a pretty photo. Anyone can learn how to take a pretty photo, but you have to have the business aspect in place as well. And at year 10 was when it was like, I'm either done or I have to shift my mindset. And that was when I realized, that's when I started understanding sales funnels and marketing systems. And because I think what happened was I was just skating along. I'd had the best year of my career 2 years earlier, and I was just skating off that, realizing I was slowly doing this, not understanding the idea of marketing and sales and all the aspects of business that really are what's going to keep it growing and sustaining without burnout.
So you saw like the future of your business was in peril. And then you saw that if you didn't make any changes, it was just going to slowly die at that point.
100%. Yeah. And I think it's very important to say when you're starting a business that even at year 10, you're going to have these moments of doubt and you're going to have these struggles. Another person that someone said to me when I first started my business and I was panicking every night and having like panic attacks, I said, do they ever stop? Do the panic attacks when running a business ever stop? And she goes, no, they just happen less often and less intense. And it's true.
Yeah, I really do understand, because I also feel like my company is like going down in a, well, not company, but my store is going down in a slump. So what did you do to overcome that slump and go up again on your 10th year?
I think businesses are always going to do that, and I think more businesses and more entrepreneurs and more people should talk about the slumps more so that it feels more acceptable, because it's true. Like you see everybody on social media, just everything's so great and glorious and perfect. It's not true. I don't trust people who say that, because I think they haven't had a business long enough to hit a slump. Are they ready? The trick is, when you hit it, how do you recover? And that's what's going to make you maintain. So what I did is I started listening to podcasts. I started reaching back out to thinking, I'm a big person to follow what's going to happen and see what signs show up and what opportunities arise. And I met a business coach, and I was on the phone with her doing a consultation. And I'd never done a course before. I'd never understood any of this, because this would have been in 2016, 17. So courses weren't so well known. And everything she said just totally hit right on. And I really bonded with her. And I took this 6-week course with her. And she talked about sales funnels, and she talked about lead magnets and webinars and all these terminologies that now in the internet online world everybody knows. But back then it was like my mind was blowing open to the potential. I was no longer a girl with a camera. I could see all the different potentials going out there to do and use. And to be honest, at that point, I didn't utilize it as much as I could have, but I wasn't ready. I still need to learn. And now's the point that I'm ready to really dive into that more. But it got my mind to shift. So I also then at that point was able to take my business and go, I'm not an artist who's attached to my camera. I'm a service industry. I waited tables for 15 years of my life. If my group wants a drink, I'm going to get him a drink, because if he's happy, my photo's going to be prettier. Yeah. So all of a sudden it's like, it's less about me and my art and my business. It's like my couple's happy, I'm happy, and that's going to help my business grow.
Cool.
Right. I think I remember on the phone call that I had with you, you talked about customer satisfaction and how to win the customers' hearts and to lead to more referrals in the future. So aside from the water thing, what else did you do to kind of win their hearts?
One of the biggest things I do when I'm establishing when someone comes in and speaks to me, first off, I'm going to have as many conversations with them as they need. Because again, as a wedding photographer, it's the biggest probably investment they've ever made. They're risking it for photos. Photos can be so triggering to people with how they feel about themselves. And it's supposed to be the biggest, best day of their life. So there's a lot of pressure going into a wedding. I've literally been to over 500 weddings in my life. They've been to 10, maybe. So I approach it as I'm here to help you and guide you and protect you and make sure you're comfortable and happy and relaxed and having fun your day. Yeah, photos are going to happen, but I'm going to be your stress slayer. My friend called me that when she got married years ago. She's like, you're just my stress slayer. Every time I'm stressed, whether it's a bridesmaid dress or whether it's the photos itself or the location, come to me. I can probably come up with something to solution and ease your stress. So if I'm helping them relax prior to the wedding and they're gaining their trust in me, the day of the wedding, they're going to have a great experience. You know, there's a lot of business books out there about, or like Maya Angelou's quote about people don't remember what you said to them, what you did for them. They remember how you made them feel. That's how I kind of work on my business. You know, if they come into the wedding feeling happy and relaxed and excited to meet me, they're going to feel that way all day. And they're going to walk away with it with this really positive feeling. I've had the best clients ever. And I've had many of them say, you are our best decision. My favorite, though, is when I get a groom who is like, I don't know about this photo thing. It's so much money. And I don't know. I don't like photos and I don't want to miss the party. And they're kind of pushing it. And by the end, they're like, that was fun. Can we do more? I was like, yes, win.
Yeah, there's an important business lesson there where I think all the businesses that over-deliver, they have no choice but to succeed. But there's sort of a fine line between coming in there and taking photos and washing dishes and doing everything, or just providing a really good service plus something else that makes them smile. So what do you think is your framework for doing the photography plus that little extra part? Do you have some sort of like framework that we could follow?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of one of those things I've learned along the way. I thought everybody was putting so much effort. Like when someone hires me for their wedding, I actually create a schedule for them. I do their day of planning. I realized I spend hours with them. Now that Zoom is so popular, I'll have a couple get married, and I literally had this happen 2 years ago. They had a 1-hour wedding. I did 2-hour-long Zooms with them. I was on the phone with them longer than I was actually with them at their wedding. So I also am more high-end, so my prices are going to reflect that. But instead of it being just not itemized, I literally have an item on my package called style planning and style customization. So in that is the ticket item that talks about, we're going to talk about what your style is going to be. We're going to talk about your planning. We're going to figure this out. All of this is going to be part of the package. So it's not just me showing up with a camera. I established that we're going to build a relationship so that that day of is the best it can be.
Right. Yeah. So I think one of the things you do, and we also do this in our agency in Taipei, is that we are priced on the high end, but we're also designed to deliver way more value than if we were to compare it to being cheaper and just delivering on what that price is. So I think you kind of following a similar strategy.
Definitely.
Yeah, it sounds like our discovery sessions with the clients. So we discover what they want, we plan, we research, we do everything for them so they can figure it out and they can enjoy their life while we do all of the hard stuff. Kind of like you, they can enjoy the day.
Right, totally. I mean, that's the thing. When people are happy, there's no price tag on that, you know, and I want to make it as easy as possible so that when they go away, they're like, wow, that was so much easier than I expected it to be.
So then how are you getting more and more new clients? Is it through word of mouth or is it more through those marketing efforts or a combination?
I think it's everything. And I think that's what the problem would have been in year 10 is that I was just focusing on word of mouth at that point, thinking that was going to be enough to sustain. And I think you always have to diversify with everything in your business. If you really want your business to grow, and I think if a business doesn't grow, it's going to shrink. So we were talking about freelancing versus running the business. You can only sustain that for so long, right? And the more you grow and expand, the more you can keep things, you can actually sustain and you can actually pull away from your business more, right? Mm-hmm. So as far as, oh my God, I totally forgot the question.
Yeah, like what's your growth strategy now for getting
new clients? So I still have referrals 100%, and I really build relationships with them. Like there's couples that I photographed their wedding that I've now done their family portraits 4 or 5 times. Now that I understand email marketing, I send out emails and I reach out and I touch, do the virtual touch to know that I'm still here, I'm still doing stuff. So that's one big thing. Networking. So the best way that I get clients is vendors, hotels, coordinators, florists, referrals from other clients and past clients, and then online. But the online SEO and marketing strategies, they're almost there just to support the others. And I'm sure you've maybe heard that, like, in order for someone to actually remember you, they need to see your name 3 times.
Right.
That legitimizes you. So when someone comes to my Mackinac Island where I work and they go to a hotel and they see my name, they're like, oh, okay, well, let's Google her. So then they're going to see me on the SEO, and then they're going to look up the Instagram, and then they're going to talk to their florist. So all the different ways in which there's a point of contact is most important. And again, just doing the non-virtual aspects, so just the clients and the referrals, aren't enough. You really need to look, especially if you're going to be high end, have like you've reached the masses, which is where the SEO and the marketing and the sales funnels and the ease and the personality and all the other thing comes in play.
Yeah. I mean, I think you set the foundation very well by offering very good service. It sounds like your main service is not even to deliver amazing photos, but just to provide a very good experience during the whole process. And then you started to add the marketing part to it, and now these two things are working together, right?
Yeah, because I think if you're going to do a photography job, it's kind of a given that you know how to take a good photo.
Right.
Like that's kind of a given. And I think so often people who are going into any field, not just photography, think, I can do this thing, but so can everybody else in that field. So it's the systems and that's the way in which you establish your business that's really going to help you grow and what the trajectory is going to be.
Okay, so then maybe could you give us some tips, like for someone who wants to take their freelance business into a real photography business, or we could just call it a service-based business. What does that journey look like? What's the first thing they should be doing? Like maybe could you just give us 3 steps?
I think the most important things to do when you're transitioning would be from, systems. Know your systems. Well, branding too. So all the major business aspects. Know who you are, know who you want to sell to under that aspect, right? And then once you really understand who you are, you're going to talk about it everywhere you go, which the networking will then come easily. And then as far as establishing it, know that you're going to have to invest. You're going to have to invest. You're going to have to take risks. Not only are you going to invest money, you're going to invest the time. All the freedom that you had as a freelancer might not happen anymore because you're going to be sitting and stressing about your marketing, your sales, your emails. Like, the night before a holiday or a big day, you're going to be on your computer late working on sales funnels, right? You're going to be like I had several calls this morning before I came here. And being that I live in one part of the country or one part of the world and I'm working at another part of the world, I have calls at 11 o'clock at night and I have calls at 7 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, whatever needs to happen. So you're investing the time, you're investing the money to go in and think, I'm not making the clients to pay is really, I think, a backwards way of thinking because you want to act as if. So you want to establish all your company, all your businesses, your systems, invest in the programs that are going to help you, your CRMs, all the different aspects ahead of time so that then the clients will come and support it. So be ready to financially invest as well. And that whole 4-hour work week book, that doesn't happen right away. Yeah. That takes a while. So then the systems, the realization of what's really going to happen, and outsourcing. I think outsourcing is so important. Don't try to do all the things yourself if you don't know. Like the first thing I outsourced, because as I discussed, money wasn't necessarily the smartest decision I ever made to put everything on a credit card. It worked out. The best thing to do I did was accounting. And I knew, okay, I need someone to help me with accounting. Yeah. Or there's a great book out there called The One Thing. Do you know it?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. And the whole concept is, I'll be honest, I didn't read the whole book. I just got the gist of it. The whole idea is you take every single process you have in your business, sending emails, talking to clients, doing the job itself, and you figure out which is the 1, 2, 3 thing that only you can do and outsource the rest, or at least try to. So the more you can outsource, the more you can spend time. Also, This way you won't get burned out because you're doing the part of the business you love. Yeah.
Cool.
That may have been more than 3.
No, it's very useful. It makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah.
Very inspiring. Yeah.
So I want to kind of end the conversation with what is your life like now? Because you're traveling a lot, you can run your business from anywhere in the world. Is it pretty amazing to be running your own photography business, and especially after all these years and sustaining it?
It's kind of shocking oftentimes. Like, don't get me wrong. I literally this morning was like, man, I could use booking a wedding, but I've been here before. That's kind of the nice thing with the longevity of a business is I've been here before and I'm still standing. And, you know, it is amazing. And every year it changes. You know, during COVID is when I decided to come live in this part of the world. And I realized, why am I trying to work so hard when I can instead squeeze all of my weddings and my shoots into a short amount of time and spend the rest of the year doing things virtually, you know, doing things in different places and giving me freedom. So it's pretty amazing to think that, you know, any person who's going to start a business, look at how you want your life to be and work it around that. Some people I know don't want to do weddings because they want their weekends free.
Yeah.
I love doing weddings and I love being able to live in Bali, live in Michigan, live in Florida, live in California, and go everywhere and do all the things I need to and shooting when I need to shoot.
Yeah, it's like a dream come true for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. And because of computers and virtual, it makes it possible.
Cool. And then you're preparing a course to actually teach people to do what you've done, right?
Yes, I'm so excited. You know, it's funny, I haven't talked much about it yet because it's going to be launching, not quite launched yet. I feel so strongly about the wedding photography business and how people will go in with their camera and just take photos and they're going to get burned out. They're going to get ornery. They're going to get ornery with their couples. I'm surprised how often I see couples who are like, my photographer was just mean. And I think it's because they don't understand the systems and the business behind running the business. Like if you establish things from the very beginning, you're not going to get burned out. But, you know, we kind of talked about this so often. Coaches and courses and all these things are telling you what to do, not how to do. And I haven't seen very many wedding photography courses that are out there much at all. They all talk about posing and how to take the pretty photo, which you can Google that and find that anywhere. But is it going to tell you, I've looked at 10 different CRMs that are based for photography, for client relations. This is the best one to use because I've tried them all. Right. And this way, people can start a business and not waste the time.
Yeah.
And they can get into it. And a lot of my course is going to be based on relationships and kindness. And I feel like it's based in a place that it's going to be great for the couple, it's going to be great for the photography, and it's going to be great for the business and the industry in general.
And I think the biggest benefit of this kind of course is that it'll fast track the time to success.
Totally.
Or if you don't have the course, it might take years, but now it could just take months, right?
Exactly. It took me, 10 years really to understand the business, you know? And this course will potentially make someone go from literally having zero, not just a camera, no website, no nothing, to literally having their first wedding in a matter of like 8 weeks if they're really on it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, makes me want to take the course. And I don't even photograph.
All right, great. So then we'll put a link to your website.
Great.
How could people hire you or find your course through your website?
Website or Instagram.
Or Instagram?
Yeah, Andreka Photography at Instagram and Facebook and website.
Okay, so we'll put those links there, and then hopefully people who are interested in getting their wedding shot can reach out or into the course.
Yeah.
And yeah, so thanks a lot for coming and sharing your secrets.
This was fun.
Yeah, super interesting.
Thanks.
Okay, I'll
Alright.
see you in the next video.
See you in the next video.
Bye, guys.
Bye.